Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. You know that moment when your entire suburban life, meticulously curated like a design catalog, is reduced to a 24-hour eviction notice? I did not either until Monday, September 22nd, when Lamar decided my walk-in closet was prime real estate for his ex-wife. He did not even have the decency to say it over an awkward brunch at the country club. No, Lamar, my husband of 12 years, chose the exact moment I was trying to perfect my downward dog in our sunroom to bellow. "Jasmine, you have 24 hours to get out. Brianna needs her closet back." And just like that, my perfectly manicured world in Windermere, Florida turned from live, laugh, love to leave, loathe, and get lost. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. A very poor one. Like when he tried to convince me that rubber clogs were making a fashion comeback. But then I saw the unmistakable glint in his eyes. Not humor, but entitlement. He was serious. And honestly, I always suspected he loved his first wife, Brianna Hayes, nearly as much as he loved a doorbuster sale. I just never thought I would be the item he marked down. My name is Jasmine Walker. I am 42. Until yesterday, my biggest daily struggle was choosing between oat milk and almond milk for my morning latte and navigating the passive-aggressive politics of the Parent-Teacher Association bake sale. I was the quintessential suburban wife, juggling online yoga with school board meetings, a freelance graphic design practice that funded my retail therapy, and the never-ending quest for the perfect kale smoothie. By all appearances, my life was a perfectly filtered story. But behind the symmetrical throw pillows and the freshly mowed lawn of our gated community, there was a constant low hum of something off, like a refrigerator that is slightly too loud, but you learn to live with it. Lamar, 45, a financial manager, was the poster child for the self-made Florida man. He had the expensive golf club membership, the boat he rarely used, and a year-round tan that announced, "I peaked in college but remained very pleased with myself." He was about appearances, projecting success, protecting his credit score, curating an image. And I, in my hopeful innocence, assumed that meant our credit score. It turned out it meant his. The "Brianna needs her closet back" line was a gut punch. Not because I adored the closet, though it was magnificent, a testament to my organizational devotion and Lamar's disposable income, but because it confirmed every unspoken suspicion about his lingering attachment to his ex. Brianna, a real estate agent with a smile as synthetic as a counterfeit designer bag and a penchant for appearing uninvited at community events, had always been the ghost in our marital machine. She was the reason he occasionally muttered in his sleep. The reason he grew quiet and distant when a certain song came on the radio. I never imagined she would literally be moving back into our primary bedroom. 24 hours, Lamar? I asked, my voice steady. A skill perfected during countless homeowners association meetings where someone inevitably complained about my perfectly legal lawn ornament. Is this a bad hair day emergency or a lottery winner needs extra storage emergency? He stared, face a mask of smug indifference. It is not a joke, Jasmine. Brianna's situation changed. She needs a place to stay. And this was her house originally. You know that. Oh, I knew. I knew like I know every aisle in Target. Lamar bought this house with Brianna. They lived here for years before their divorce. When we married, he moved me in along with my yoga mats and collection of artisan candles. It was always Lamar's house, never our house. I thought that was an odd quirk, not a preview of my impending displacement. The true shock came later that evening, after he retreated to his media room that smelled of stale beer and poor decisions. I did not rifle through his phone. I am neither reckless nor eager to provoke nausea. I followed the digital paper trail. Lamar, Mr. Pristine Credit Score, was meticulous. Too meticulous. Hidden deep in a cloud folder he apparently believed impenetrable, I found them, divorce papers. Our divorce papers. Not merely drafted, filed months ago. The signature, my signature, was a flawless forgery. A masterpiece of fraud. He had not just prepared for a divorce. He was executing it while I debated organic versus conventional avocados. My internal monologue, usually a wry stream of commentary, crashed into silence, then surged like a flood of lukewarm coffee. A falsified signature on legal documents. That was not Lamar being Lamar. That was a crime. If not federal, then the kind that gets you quietly erased from every neighborhood guest list. And the final insult, the insurance claims. He had filed for reimbursement on our joint family policy, for marital counseling we never attended, and for home repairs that never occurred, also bearing my signature. He was not merely trying to discard me. He aimed to profit in the process. The indignation hit like a rogue wave at Cocoa Beach. This was not about a closet anymore. This was about being erased, exploited, and casually discarded like an expired coupon. The man who promised forever was conducting a financial heist using my identity as his getaway car. He assumed I would pack my leggings and vanish into the community gossip pages. He miscalculated. As the Florida sky blazed orange and pink, I recognized something essential. Lamar was not simply selfish, he was a walking liability. And I was not a hapless victim. I was a woman with a laptop, a wireless connection, and a sudden appreciation for strategic exposure. If he wanted a clean break, he was going to get a public reckoning. He wanted his ex-wife to have her closet back. Fine. He would need a whole new life to go with it. I would not be drafting a welcome card. The plan began forming with the inevitability of a storm off the Gulf. Tuesday, September 23rd, dawned bright and indifferent. Lamar was already gone, off to his office, no doubt whistling, unaware that I had unearthed enough evidence to stock a records room. He left a note on the kitchen counter because, apparently, a man who forges legal documents still believes in the charm of paper. Jasmine, packed your essentials for the guest room. Brianna prefers the primary closet. Be out by 5 in the evening. Do not make this harder than it has to be. Do not make this harder, I repeated to the empty kitchen, which suddenly felt like a crime scene. He had handed me a shovel and pointed to the burial plot of his reputation. My essentials were a duffel with 3 pairs of yoga pants, a half-empty bottle of dry shampoo, and a dog-eared copy of a memoir about reinvention. The audacity was almost artistic, a performance piece called The Suburban Wife's Eviction. He truly believed I would meekly relocate to the guest room, then glide out, leaving him and Brianna to curate a new life in my space. He underestimated the focus of a woman who just realized her marriage was a carefully crafted fiction, complete with forged documents and insurance fraud. I walked through the house like a person in a museum of her own life. Every perfectly placed item, every framed photo, every piece of furniture I chose suddenly felt like a prop. The open-concept living room that held Super Bowl parties and Thanksgivings now resembled a stage set for a play I never auditioned for. Brianna. The name alone made my jaw tighten. She was the sort who wore white to other people's weddings and brought free from everything casseroles to potlucks. She radiated favored and flawless, even when her career's income fluctuated like elevator doors. Lamar's reverence for her had been constant, a nostalgic current that ran under our life. He compared me to her, always subtle. Brianna always found the perfect throw pillows, he would say, eyeing mine. Or, Brianna never worried about association fees. Perhaps Brianna was not paying them. The microaggressions were steady drips that hollow rock. Seemingly small, persistently corrosive. You are wearing that to the club? Brianna preferred classic. Or when I suggested a restaurant, she loved that Italian place downtown. I was auditioning for a role already cast, perpetually the understudy. I laughed it off, like an accomplished suburban wife does. Later I joked with friends over too much rose. But in retrospect, it was not playful. It was gaslighting. He was making me feel like an intruder in my home and in my marriage. I recalled a particular Thanksgiving. Lamar's mother mentioned Brianna's green bean casserole 5 times during grace, while I stood there holding my own from scratch. Lamar smiled benignly, as if this were normal. I wanted to shout. Instead, I smiled and carried dishes. The routine was exhausting. The fraud elevated the situation from emotional negligence to systemic harm. He was not merely distant. He was dismantling my life with a scanner and a pen. I pictured him practicing my signature while I was at book club discussing the latest selection, and my stomach turned. I stepped into the primary closet, the supposed reason for this upheaval, still filled with my neatly arranged clothing and shoes. An unwise part of me wanted to torch it all. Then I remembered the forged documents, the bogus insurance claims, and the anger cooled into strategy. My phone buzzed. A text from Lamar. Just checking if you are making progress. Brianna will be here by 6 in the evening. He was not even granting the full 24 hours. The words hung in the air like a timer. Something fierce and focused woke up in me. I looked into the full-length mirror. The woman staring back did not look bewildered anymore. Her eyes were sharp. The suburban wife had left the stage. In her place stood someone prepared to do the work of justice with precision. Lamar thought he was removing me. He was activating me. My graphic design studio, usually a haven of Pantone swatches and client briefs, became a command center. If Lamar lived by numbers, numbers would tell the truth. I started with the obvious, our bank accounts. He had always been lax with passwords, assuming my greatest sin was an impulse shopping spree. He never expected me to read fine print and trawl archives. Beyond the insurance fraud, there were transfers, small at first, then larger, flowing to an unfamiliar offshore account. The dates stretched back 2 years. 2 years of happiness while he siphoned funds. This was not a divorce. It was a hostile takeover. Cold dread rose and then transformed into a clear, steady heat. I cross-referenced the offshore transfers with public property records. That was when the pattern crystallized. A luxury condo in Sarasota, purchased under a limited liability company with Brianna Hayes listed as the sole beneficiary and partner. The down payment originated from that offshore account, which in turn was funded by our joint savings. This was not an affair. It was a financial conspiracy. Of course, I murmured, astonished by the audacity. While Lamar admonished me about spending on a sofa or a spa weekend, he was building a beachfront portfolio for his former spouse with our money. He cast me as irresponsible while he conducted a scheme disguised as a marriage. My brain, which spends workdays on typography and layout, pivoted to interest rates and legal mechanisms. Who knew a designer could become a forensic accountant overnight? I gathered evidence, every data point meticulously labeled and dated. I worked through Tuesday and into Wednesday, September 24th, sustained by coffee and purpose. My first call was to my closest friend, Ashley Collins, a corporate attorney who specializes in mergers and acquisitions and has a healthy skepticism about men like Lamar. I laid out everything: the forged divorce papers, the insurance claims, the transfers, the Sarasota property. Ashley, usually unflappable, exhaled slowly. Jasmine, this is not merely a divorce. This is a matter with potential federal implications. He did not just betray you, he committed financial crimes. And Brianna appears complicit. The word complicit rang like a bell. I was not simply a wronged spouse. I was a victim of a structured financial wrongdoing. Ashley instructed me to document everything, create secure digital copies, preserve originals, and not confront Lamar. Let him believe he has succeeded. Then we act, she said. You are orchestrating a takeover of your own life. Playing along? I said dryly. I have been performing that role for 12 years. I meant it. The performance was ending. The production was now mine. The plan sharpened. Lamar thought I would be the pleasant, pliable designer who disappears. He underestimated my attention to detail and my willingness to connect seemingly disparate dots. I would not scream or break lamps. I would dismantle his facade with documents and procedure. I began assembling a dossier: bank statements, property filings, emails. Those emails, subject lines about investment opportunities, with Brianna while I believed he was at a golf tournament. I compiled photographs that placed them together at business events with a new clarity of meaning. I built a timeline, color-coded, annotated, a visual story of deception. I found a photograph of Brianna wearing a necklace Lamar gave me for our 5th anniversary. I added it to the file. The evidence told a story that even Lamar's most loyal colleagues would understand. By Thursday, September 25th, I had everything: a meticulously organized file, a legal strategy, and a focused desire to see justice served with appropriate severity. Ashley connected me with a high-asset divorce attorney, Whitney James, who specializes in fraud. You have done half my job, Whitney said, paging through the binder. For you, this will be straightforward. For Lamar, difficult, she added. It was nearly 5 in the evening. Lamar would be home soon, expecting me to be packed and fading into the guest room. He had no idea I was packing a legal arsenal with his name etched on every page. Lamar walked through the front door with the ease of a man who believes the world is his to arrange. He tossed his keys on the console table, loosened his tie, and nodded. Jasmine, is the guest room ready? He reached for the remote, picturing me fluffing pillows for my own removal. Almost, I said, voice composed. I stood at the kitchen island, polishing a wine glass, the image of domestic calm. Inside, a spring was coiled and ready. Just finishing a few things, I added, offering a small, deliberate smile. He grunted, entertained by the television. He did not look at me, not truly. That was his mistake. Furniture does not forget. Friday, September 26th, dawned clear. A day suitable for a reckoning. Lamar was in the shower when my phone buzzed. Ashley, we are outside. It is time. My hands were steady. I took my duffel, which now felt like a tool kit, and walked out the front door without a backward glance. The house was no longer a home. It was evidence. Ashley waited in a sleek black sport utility vehicle, composed and resolute. Beside her sat Whitney with a briefcase. "Jasmine, this is Whitney James," Ashley said. Whitney shook my hand. "Ready to proceed?" "Absolutely." We drove several blocks to a modest, well-kept home. It was not the Sarasota condo. It was Brianna's current residence, the one she shared with her husband, Eric Coleman. "We begin with Brianna," Ashley said. "Her participation in the financial scheme makes her central. Eric will want to know." A flicker of pity stirred for Eric, then faded. Pity was a luxury I could not afford. Justice was required. Whitney rang the doorbell. Brianna answered, less polished than usual, a coffee mug in hand. Her eyes widened at Ashley and Whitney, then narrowed when she saw me standing a few steps back. "Jasmine, what are you doing here?" she asked, edge of panic in her voice. Ashley spoke, clear and professional. "Brianna Hayes, we are here to serve you with a subpoena regarding your involvement in a financial fraud investigation concerning Lamar Walker and Sunshine Holdings, a limited liability company. We also have documents regarding a property in Sarasota purchased with funds diverted from Mr. Walker's marital assets." Brianna went pale. Her mug slipped and shattered on the porch. "No, this is absurd. Lamar would never." A man appeared behind her, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Brianna, what is happening? Who are these people?" I stepped forward, controlled and precise. "Eric, allow me to introduce the attorneys handling a civil and potential criminal matter involving your wife and my husband. The Sarasota condo was funded by money siphoned from my marriage into an offshore account, and then into a limited liability company listing your wife as a beneficiary." Eric stared at Brianna as Whitney and Ashley handed them organized packets, bank trails, property deeds, emails, timelines. "We advise you to contact legal counsel immediately," Ashley said. "The matter involves both civil remedies and potential criminal exposure." As we turned to leave, Brianna collapsed onto the steps, weeping. Eric stood rigid, processing a radically altered reality. "That neighborhood message board is going to be busy," I murmured to Ashley as we walked away. Next, Lamar's office. We arrived as Lamar settled into his leather chair, certain of his invincibility. Ashley and Whitney entered, with me close behind. Lamar's jaw dropped. "Jasmine, who are these women?" I leaned against the doorframe, calm. "Lamar, meet Ashley Collins and Whitney James, my legal team," I said. "They are here regarding your forged divorce petition, the offshore accounts you failed to disclose, and the Sarasota property you purchased using misappropriated marital funds. Also, Brianna has been served." His face cycled through shock, indignation, and alarm. "This is ridiculous. Jasmine, you are being dramatic." "You do not." "I do," I said, stepping closer. "Every detail. I learned how to follow the numbers. Your assumption that I would remain uninformed was your last comfort." Ashley calmly laid out the evidence, noting the freeze already initiated on certain accounts, the immediate steps for injunctions, and the possibility of criminal referral. Whitney detailed the property tracing and the likelihood that the Sarasota condo would be incorporated into the marital estate for division. Lamar tried to bluster and threaten consequences he no longer controlled. Ashley and Whitney met each point with case law and documentation. His confidence drained. "You are going to lose your reputation, your position, your club privileges," I said quietly. "And the condo will not shelter you. Brianna's name on a limited liability company will not save either of you." He collapsed back into his chair, terrified. The man who made me feel invisible now confronted the unavoidable visibility of his actions. The satisfaction was not gloating. It was the relief of accuracy after years of pretense. That afternoon, Ashley texted. "Asset freeze confirmed. Sarasota property secured pending division. Lamar's firm initiated an internal review. Eric has filed for divorce and agreed to cooperate." I exhaled for the first time in days. The new normal was not merely acceptable. It was luminous. The fallout was swift. Lamar, once the model of suburban success, became a cautionary example of what happens when duplicity meets process. His firm, Sterling Wealth Management, encouraged him to pursue other opportunities, which is corporate language for depart now. His golf club revoked his membership. His social circle evaporated. Invitations disappeared. Colleagues grew distant. People do not wish to stand next to a man under investigation for fraud. The whispered brunch conversations turned him into a footnote with lessons attached. Lamar discovered the price of reputation when it is placed on a ledger. Brianna fared no better. Eric filed for divorce with remarkable speed. The Sarasota condo was seized into the marital estate. Without the illegal cushion, her professional persona faltered. She retreated to her mother's guest room, which lacked the curated glow she had worn for so long. As for me, I stepped into a life that finally felt like mine. The settlement was robust because Lamar's concealment was so comprehensive and so thoroughly exposed. The judge, Patrice Vance, a clear-eyed jurist, awarded me the house in exchange for equitable adjustments. I did not keep it out of sentimentality. I kept it because it was mine. I sold the heavy sectional, painted the walls a vibrant teal, and turned Lamar's media room into a spacious studio office. The transformation was not cosmetic, it was structural. The home became a canvas for a self I had sidelined. The financial security was welcome. No more side-eyeing the price of organic produce. But the true wealth was steadiness, the quiet knowledge that I had stepped out of an imposed role and back into authorship of my life. Ashley became more than counsel, she became a friend. Whitney remained a formidable ally, both practical and kind. Over occasional glasses of wine, Ashley said, "Most people collapse under this. You restructured it." It was remarkable to witness. I believed her. I had watched myself do it. This experience taught me that people underestimate the person they ignore. We observe. We analyze. We file away details. And then, when it matters, we act with care. Revenge is not fury. It is documentation, timing, and the willingness to see things through. I enrolled in painting classes Lamar once called frivolous. I reconnected with friends. I visited places I had only pinned in digital albums. I launched a small online shop selling sharply written greeting cards, building a livelihood from the wit Lamar dismissed. The larger lesson was unapologetically simple. You are the author of your own story. For years, Lamar held the pen, drafting a narrative in which I was supportive decor. I took it back. I revised. I restored chapters. I added a plot he did not anticipate. People asked if I regretted the method. If I should have tried counseling again. If I could have waited. My answer never wavered. I regret only that I did not open the archive sooner. He chose duplicity. I chose clarity. The calendar turned and the gossip waned, as it always does. But the architecture of my life remained changed for the better. The teal walls felt like a sunrise. The studio smelled like paper and paint. The kitchen sounded like my laughter. Lamar attempted to circulate a softer version of events. The facts did not comply. He remained under review. The documents existed. Numbers, unlike people, do not improvise. He learned that. Brianna sought sympathy in familiar circles. Compassion dwindled when the records reached the room. She had to build again, this time with honest foundations, or not at all. I hoped she would choose well. I also recognized that her choices were no longer mine to carry. My house, once a stage set for a play I did not write, became a home again. I placed photographs on walls without testing whether they fit a narrative other people approved. I placed them where they made sense to me, at eye level with my own history. On the anniversary of the morning everything changed, I brewed coffee and stood in the quiet. I was not waiting for anything to happen. I was present in a life I designed. That was enough. I took my sketchbook to the sunroom, the place where Lamar pronounced my deadline. The room felt different now, lighter. Not because the furniture moved, but because the weight did. I drew until the daylight shifted and a calm contentment settled in. Later, I walked past the closet that once served as the battleground of someone else's nostalgia. It held my clothing and my decisions. No memorabilia from the past loomed. No echoes. Just order and possibility. My phone buzzed with a message from Ashley. A check-in, not a warning. "How are you today?" she wrote. "Steady," I replied. "Finishing a new series. We made plans to meet next week." In the evening, I sat on the back steps and watched the Florida sky do what it always does. Turn brilliant without apology. I did not need an audience. I did not need applause. I needed only to see the truth in front of me and keep choosing it. It would be dishonest to say there was no grief. There was. 12 years do not vanish without residue. But grief no longer dictated my boundaries. It did not determine my worth. It moved alongside a stronger companion, respect for my own resolve. The neighbors eventually stopped whispering. A few apologized for believing Lamar's version of events. A few did not. I smiled and waved anyway. Their approval had ceased being a currency I spent. I cleared the last of Lamar's boxes from the garage and donated what remained. The empty shelves looked like margins waiting for notes. It felt appropriate. I designed a new logo for my studio and launched a refreshed portfolio. Work flowed in. Clients referred friends. Excellence, it turns out, attracts more of itself when you have energy to sustain it. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, I opened the binder that began as evidence and had become a reminder. I turned the pages not to relive anything, but to remember the sequence: confusion, discovery, action, outcome. I closed it and returned it to the drawer. I lit a candle and made dinner, simple, fragrant mine. I carried the plate to the table that had hosted arguments and apologies and long silences. This time, it held only food and an open book. I thought about the closet and all that it represented: ownership, control, erasure, return. It no longer felt like a symbol of loss. It was just a space where things belong to the person who lives here. That person is me. I poured a glass of wine and stepped outside again. The air was soft. Somewhere a sprinkler turned on. Somewhere a child laughed. The ordinary had returned, and somehow that felt like the rarest luxury. Before bed, I set my alarm and laid out my running shoes. The body remembers stress. It also learns peace. I was teaching mine every day. In the morning, I would send Ashley a photograph of a finished painting, bold strokes layered with precise lines. The piece looked like strength and grace occupying the same canvas. It looked like the truth of what happened and the life that followed. I brushed my teeth, washed my face, and studied the woman in the mirror. Not a supporting character. Not a placeholder for someone else's history. I turned out the light and walked towards sleep with uncomplicated relief. People still ask, on occasion, if there was a final moment that made all the difference. There was not one, there were many. But if I had to choose, I would pick the instant I decided not to explain myself to people committed to misunderstanding me. There is a particular sovereignty in that choice. It is quiet, not grand. It lives in calendars and routines and projects finished without announcement. It lives in the capacity to sit with your own company and find it sufficient. In the end, Lamar did not get his return to the past. Brianna did not get her curated future at my expense. And I did not get a tidy moral. I got something better. A life that makes sense to me, built with steadiness after the storm. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.